So this is a video of me explaining what happens during your moon mahadasha. So the moon mahadasha is a period of 10 years. And what does the moon represent? Of course, it represents the mind, the emotions, and the mother and mother figure, and a shitload of other things. Moon is very important in Vedic sidereal astrology. The nakshatras are based upon the moon. The Vimshotri mahadasha system, dasha system, is based upon the nakshatras. And since the nakshatras are based upon the moon is very important. Moon is very fucking important. So, naturally what you'll deal with during any dasha of any planet is the things that are significators of that planet, of that graha. So, the moon, one of the many things that it is a significator of is water and liquids and stuff. So naturally, what a person could potentially deal with is that they might experience during the period of their moon dasha, especially if it's maybe under heavy malefic influences, or maybe in the second house and influenced or conjunct by the north node of Rahu. You might become someone who becomes a drinker. You might start drinking more. You might start drinking more liquor during this period, since moon is a significator of water and liquids. You might want to be near water and take boat trips and stuff more, or cruises and all that shit with doing your moon mahadasha. Another thing is that you'll start to behave maybe more motherly during this period, because moon is the mahadasha lord. Moon, so you'll start taking on the traits and qualities of some extent of that planet. So moon represents a mother, so you'll start to act a little bit more motherly and stuff. You might desire to maybe want to mother something or have a kid. Now, it might not literally be a kid, like, oh man, I want to have a baby and stuff. You might get a dog, you might get a cat, you might get a pet. That might be your baby. Or maybe you want to run for, like, I don't know, be the head of a neighborhood block watch or whatever. Or become a supervisor or manager and just watch and govern over something as if it was yours, as if it was your kid or something. You might want to do that during your moon mahadasha. What else could you want to do during this dasha period? You could be easily influenced by the moon during this period. Why might you be easily influenced during this period and moody? I'm not saying you'll be moody just because it's the moon and it represents emotions. I say you'll be moody because, in general, astrologically, the nature of the moon, it really gets a lot of its qualities and what it will do based upon the sign it's in and what planets are aspecting it. And the moon goes through different phases. So everybody, you know, the moon is just very, very influenced. It's very moldable. I can't come up with a better word to describe it. So you'll sort of be like that too. You could be easily influenced, or your mood could easily fluctuate and shift and change based upon your environment and who you're with and dealing with. Because you also got to remember, moon doesn't produce its own light. The moon produces its light. It reflects the light of the sun, and therefore, because it reflects the light of the sun, the moon is a significator of mirrors. Mirrors reflect who you are. So, you know, one thing you'll see is that how you think and feel will really be at the forefront of your life during the 10 years of your moon mahadasha period, or maybe even during your antardasha period. You might really be pouring your heart out and your emotions and all that stuff during this period. And like I said, you're easily influenced, could really love and desire to drink. So, and you could also be very moody. And you might also begin to move or travel a lot more during this period, because the moon goes into a different nakshatra every single day, and the moon goes into a different sign every 2.5 days. So, and the moon goes through different phases all the time. So you're someone who might just, aside from being moody, you might move around a lot, travel a lot. whatever. You might just find yourself traveling a lot more during your moon mahadasha period in general. I'm about to go look at my notes real quick to make sure I am not missing and forgetting anything, but no. That's essentially the main things you'll deal with during your moon dasha. Now, since the moon represents your mind and emotions, though, any psychological issues that could be present or hidden will be brought to the forefront, will be brought to the surface. I already made a video before how you can spot depression in a person's chart, and it's based heavily upon your moon in your 4th house. So if you don't have your moon in good conditions in your birth chart, and your D9 chart, and your D60 chart, then you know your moon, your mind could just be heavily negatively impacted, and therefore you can have psychological issues. If the 4th house and the moon is just very heavily damaged and under a lot of malefic influences, then you could be very depressed or angry or have psychological issues and whatnot. So if your moon is heavily influenced like that over the course of those several important charts in your divisional charts, then those issues will be brought to the forefront and seen. Of course, issues with the mother and mother figure could be present, of course. Maybe depending on how the moon is in your chart, if it's maybe in the 6th house or the 8th house or whatever, or under a lot of malefic influences, you might want to check on the health of the mother and all that good stuff. But that is essentially it for the things that you'll deal with. You know, ultimately, for a person individually, you have to look at their sign and nutshell of the moon, and you have to look at the 3 different ascendants. You have to look at someone's moon chart, which means you make moon the ascendant, and you view their chart from that perspective, and you see all the things that they'll be dealing with during their moon period. From one side, the perspective of how, you know, because the moon chart represents how you feel and how you react to things, how you feel about things. The moon chart is very important, not only because it's considered to be important in Vedic sidereal astrology, or because the nakshatras are based upon the moon, or because the Vimshottri Mahadasha is based upon the moon, but because the moon represents the mind and the emotions, and it's our emotions. It's how we feel. It's how we think that determines our actions. I'm making this video because I feel like making this video. I'm going to eat because I feel like eating. I want to eat. If the moon, you know, so you know, the moon has a great deal of control and influence over your actions. So you'll look at, you know, you'll see how you feel and react to things during your moon period by making moon the dasha lord, the moon lugna. So the second ascendant, I actually already said 2 of them, because the 3 different ascendants you want to look at is the moon lugna for every mahadasha. Regardless of what planet it is, you want to look at, regardless of what planet it is, you want to look at every, you know, dasha from the perspective of the moon being an ascendant. That's one ascendant in perspective to look at stuff. The second ascendant in perspective to look at stuff is from dasha lugna, which is when you make that planet the ascendant and you view things from the perspective of that planet. But since I'm talking about the moon in this case is already the dasha lord, and you're already looking at the moon chart. So that's 2 birds killed with 1 stone. The third chart you want to look at is the sun chart. Make sun the ascendant. See what the soul, the ego might be dealing with during the perspective of the moon. You look at where does the moon go from the perspective of maybe the sun. You know, and by looking at these 3 different ascendants, and by knowing the sign and the nakshatra and what's aspecting the moon, you'll get a general idea of, okay, I see that I can be dealing with these type of things during my moon period. And if I want to know more, I get a general better idea of more of what I could be dealing with during my moon mahadasha, I can look at these divisional charts and see what's going on. But, you know, looking at several divisional charts and flipping the ascendants around and pinpointing exactly what you might be dealing with and going through during a Vimshottri Mahadasha period or Dasha period in general can be very stressful and just drive you the fuck crazy. But this is one of the main foundational ways that you assess what happens to someone during, you know, their planetary time period, during their dasha. This is how the predictive nature of astrology works to a degree. It's either first, after you learn the logical side that I'm explaining, you gotta you gotta build that intuition. You gotta, be divinely tapped in. If it's meant for you to be able to predict and see into things, and it's meant for you. If not, it's not. But that's all I have to say when it comes to what you can expect in general about a moon dasha. Because really, any of these videos that I make, you only getting like 25% of what I'm saying might relate to you, because I'm just speaking about a planet. I'm just speaking about a graha. I'm not telling you about the sign. I'm not telling you about the house. I'm not telling you about the nakshatra. I'm not telling you about the aspect. So therefore, you don't really get that much information. It's a very general ass video. It's like you learning about astrology, right? And you see that there's more than just your sun sign out there. But because you're speaking to other people who don't know that, they just think that, oh, because they know your sun sign and tropical, that's just who you are. And they might be right sometimes, but that's not exactly who the fuck you are. And it's the same thing for these videos that I'm making when it comes to the dashas. You gotta have a general understanding already and foundation of astrology. But that's all I have to say in regards to what happens to your moon mahadasha. Thank you for watching this video, and I'll see you whenever I make my next video.